Thank you. Something important started to happen when you first saw me today. What was that? So you started to form an impression of me. And it's likely that impression was created by, you know, how I look, my posture, tone of voice, was I smiling? This is information that happens at the emotional level of communication. Now, when it comes to communication skills, there's two sides to the message. One side is the content level where the words are carried explicitly within the meaning. You know, would you like a chair? Open the door, please. And the other side of the message is the relational level. And the emotions that play at this level are things like likability, trust, confidence, credibility. Now, both sides of the message are important, but it's often the relational level that gets remembered. And what we're here today to talk about is networking skills. And we have to have some kind of emotional connection with others for this to go well. So we're going to look at the agenda for the next 45 minutes. First of all, I'd like to talk about perceptual tendencies, because there is no sense in talking about reality. I think our perceptions are more important, and we're going to look at the perceptions that people have of us and we have of them. We're then going to go to authentic client communication, because this is a skill that allows us to be truly memorable by connecting at that unconscious emotional level of communication, followed by networking protocols. And I always say the benefit of knowing how to work a room with ease is it allows you to remove the focus from your own behaviors and focus then on the client, the opportunity, and enjoying yourself. You know, things just go that much more easier and smoother if you feel confident. And I'm going to end with a few cocktail etiquette tips, because this is important too. You know, our demeanor and our impression around food and beverage is really important. It's part of networking. So I'll give you some high-level tips in this area. Let's talk first of all about one of the first perceptual tendencies, and that is the fact that we cling to a first impression. How many here agree with that? Right. Not only do we form an impression when we meet somebody, and they say 50% of that first impression is made within the first 3 to 5 seconds, but we tend to cling to them. Why do you think we cling to them? So there's a couple of reasons why, and yes, we form an impression. Yes, we feel we're contradicting ourselves if we change our impression. 2 reasons. One, it's related to fight or flight. If you think about it, we haven't come out of the caves too long ago, right? I mean, when we meet people, we make decisions quickly, whether we like them, we find them competent, somebody I trust, somebody I want to refer. Information comes to us through all our senses, but information related to our security resides in part of our brain, and it's hard to ignore that. Another reason we tend to cling to a first impression is because we are psychologically lazy. You know, if we form an opinion of somebody, and even when information comes along that may contradict that first impression, we still tend to cling to it because we don't want to do the work to go back and second guess ourselves. So, professionally and physically, when you meet somebody for the first time, you walk up to them, what do? Professionally and physically. Everyone stand up, turn to 1 or 2 only, shake their hand like it's the first time you met them. Go ahead, please. Here's the test. You cannot look at the person whose hand you just shook. How many here honestly remember the person's eye color? Show of hands. I've got, what, maybe a third of the room. Okay, we're not doing so well. May I have a volunteer to come up and shake my hand? Okay, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Now, if I was to, just a second, if I was to shake your hand and I do this, tell me the impression. Hi, nice to meet you. Impression?
You're not paying attention to me.
How many have had that happen at a networking event? The person's looking over your shoulder at somebody else. How many has had it happen? Absolutely. Compared to, hi, nice to meet you. Or they're looking down. You know, yeah. I know I'm being culturally biased, but in our North American business culture, don't run away, when we're talking about etiquette today, our North American business culture, it's expected when we meet somebody, we look at them in the eyes. There's a psychology to this. Don't go anywhere. Turn to the person again, shake their hand, notice their eye color, tell me if it's different. Go ahead. So that's different. Like I say, you're not leering into the person's eyes to see every nuance, but you're just noticing the person's eye. It makes a difference. It's a rapport builder. On a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being the weak, wimpy, wishy-washy handshake, 10 being the bone crusher, you're looking for about a 7 as far as firmness goes. And you know what? No one ever tells us the quality of our handshake. That's a 7. Oh, you're a 9. Can you go back to 7? There you go. Circulate, tell each other the quality of their handshake. If you're 10, say, ooh, go to 7. If you're 5, come on, a little firmer. Tell each other. Thank you, have a seat. Thank you. Why is that important, the quality of a handshake? Not too firm, not too soft. You're sincere and you appreciate the person, that's true. And also, as human beings, we're meaning-making machines. We make things up all the time. We'll take that weak handshake and extrapolate that to somebody's character. That's not the case, but we do these things. So a good first impression is web to the web. You're sure of a full handshake. About a 7. Looking at the person and smiling. And you know what? You're off to a great start. Let's go to the next perceptual tendency, and that we favor negative impressions. If I said to you, Jonathan is intelligent, hardworking, conceited, thorough, and funny, are those 5 adjectives describing Jonathan equally weighted? What are you remembering right now? Conceited carries more weight. There's all kinds of customer service surveys that prove if you went somewhere and you had good service, you may not tell anybody. It's a given, right? But if you went somewhere and you had poor or terrible service, you would tell 3 to 10 people. How many agree? Absolutely. It's a restaurant. You know, you have food poisoning. You're going to tell your best friend to go, right? Or the airline. They've lost your baggage. You know, you're going to talk about the airline. It's unfortunately, we are the bearer of bad news more than good news. So 2 interesting elements to this. One is a little goes a long way. You can do so many things right in your professional dealings here at head office or in your corporate boardrooms and offices with your clients. But you get out into the networking social arena and maybe you have a drink and maybe you have 2. Maybe things slide. You know, maybe it's an off-color joke or it could be gossip or something that's not, you know, not positive. Unfortunately, that's what may get remembered. Now, I'm not the moral crusader here today, but I just want to say that consistency is really important. Networking, it's still it's a social arena, but it's still the business arena, and that impression still matters. You know, we see things happening as people let their guard down. We want to be aware of it. Another interesting element is we don't get honest feedback. How many here have ever laughed at someone's joke they did not find funny? You know, or I love your decor, but it's not your taste. Or great tie, but geez, I wouldn't wear, you know, daffodils or whatever, right? We're all about saving face in our culture, so we won't say to somebody, you know what, you're talking negatively about Canada Post, why are you doing that? Or somebody else, you know, really you should talk to them directly. We won't tell them. We may even smile and the person thinks it's a green light for poor behavior. But all the time they're thinking, whoa, what would he or she say to somebody I was planning to refer them to or introduce them to? So just consistency is important. It is a perceptual tendency. We want to be aware of it. As we look at building into this program on networking skills, I want to talk a little bit about authentic client communication. When we work with the organizations that we do, we hear time and time again, how can I differentiate myself? If everybody has great products, services, technology, backroom support, how can I stand out? How can I be memorable? Because I don't think anybody wants to leave a networking event and be forgotten. Whether you're there to meet new people, to expand your circles of influence, you know, to promote products or services, you want to be remembered, don't you? You want to be remembered. So it comes down to authentic client communication. And this is a skill that allows us to be truly memorable by connecting into that unconscious emotional level of communication. And there was actually research done in this area. And what it was Van Kempen Funds, a large U.S. investment house, hired Price & Associates to go out and to survey 300 of their high net worth clients that were worth over $800,000 per. And they asked them 2 questions. Do you feel that your investment advisor knows your life story? And if you thought your advisor knew your life story, would you invest all of your savings with that one advisor, or would you split it up between 2 or 3? And the research came back, and it was really interesting that if the investor thought that the advisor knew their life story, they were more likely to invest all of their money with that one person, compared to if they thought they knew a little bit or some, or weren't so interested in them or in their life story, they would split it up between 2 or 3 advisors. And so the information came back, and it was overwhelming, that money does travel in the direction of autobiographical knowledge. And there is this key skill that allows us to tap into that, and that is curiosity. You know, if you think about it, and I know you're not investment advisors, but I just want to show you this research was really interesting, and you could apply that to any profession, really. But it's interesting to think about curiosity. I think as children, you know, are not afraid to question the why, the where, the when. If you listen to a 2 or 4-year-old, you'll hear that. But as adults, we're not comfortable in asking questions, right? We're not comfortable. We either feel that we're being too nosy or probing too much. We're really not comfortable in asking deeper level meaning questions. So I have a question for you. How many here can remember the last time they attended a social business networking event and you met somebody who couldn't know you enough? How many remember that, who really wanted to know you? Okay, I'm the only person with my hand up. That proves 2 things. I've been traveling in business now and doing seminars and all these other programs for companies for 27 years this year. I remember it once, in all honesty. It was a conference, it was down east, it was a bank, I sat at a table, I was the speaker, I was invited to dinner, and I remember the person who sat next to me is going to go through what we're going to go through here. Really, truly showed interest in me. So it proves two things. One, the room did not put your hand up. Nobody. So it doesn't happen very often. And two, when it does happen, it's memorable. I still remember it, and I remember the person. I remember his name, but I remember the bank, I remember him, his position, I remember him. So the whole idea is we want to do things that nobody else is doing. You want to start doing things that make you memorable, that make you stand out, that come to top of mind. So this is something where we have to take a little leap in faith, but your interest levels in others is the emotional foundation in building a relationship. And it is better to be interested than interesting. You know, if you're so worried about yourself and how you look and how I'm in the room, you'll never connect with others. Being interested in others is really important. I remember an article I saw, a business article, and they asked Mary Kay, who was the Mary Kay, cosmetics maven, what do you attribute your success to? And she said, when I meet somebody, I always imagine that they have a sign around their neck that says, help me feel important. I always imagine that invisible sign. So it's something where we want to start doing this and being curious. Now, like I said, there's some rules around this, but why Kevin Bacon? Anybody? Why is Kevin Bacon here? The 6 degrees of separation, right? So it's the whole idea that Kevin Bacon is a very popular movie star in Hollywood, and he knows a lot of directors, and he knows a lot of movie stars, and it's a whole thing around 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon was an example of this. But really, it is the fact that every person is separated on this planet by at least 6 people. I mean, if we want to meet the Queen of England, 6 removed from somebody in this room, we may be able to. I know people that you may be able to meet through me that are only 2 related that are really, superstars actually, idols and things like this. So it's just we do tend to connect with these groups of people, which is really important. But it comes down to the acronym of BIO. When you meet people, you're trying to establish similarities, things that you have in common with others that you share. Because another perceptual tendency is birds of a feather flock together. We actually like people that look like us, smell like us, have the same social interests, hobbies, and background. We like people like us. Do you know why? Why do I like somebody like me? It's comfort. It's affirming too, right? If I'm doing it, you're doing it, then I must be okay. So it's affirming. So the idea is you want to start tapping into what you have in common with people, things that you share that, again, when they're thinking of you, they say, oh, the lady who likes tennis, I remember her. Oh, yes, and she was the image consultant, right? Or whatever. That person will have that connection with you. And you're trying to find these connections, whether you're networking internally, here at head office, or externally, finding these connections, things that you share that you have in common, these similarities is what we're going to do. And we're going to have a chance to try this today. So it's around the acronym BIO. It's the background of a person, it's their interest, and